So tonight, keep your questions for the end. So jot them down as we go. And I'll answer all the questions at the end that you have. One of the main things we're going over tonight is fasting. So if you guys looked at your nutrition manual, either you got a hard copy or it's in the Facebook group where just look under the files tab. Pretty much you guys have like a 6-week progression. We're starting you with about a 20-hour fast. So 20 hours, so you have a 4-hour window. But what I want to do tonight is explain fasting to you in different ways, kind of teach you the science on a simple level so you understand why this is working and why it's so effective and why it's different than your typical North American diet. Right? This is not about cutting calories. It's not about cutting out carbohydrates or anything like that. That doesn't work. So in 2012, I was playing in a men's league basketball, had a really bad knee injury, ruptured my left patellar tendon and about 5 other things. Pretty gruesome. It was a really long recovery. And I decided that since Devin, my wife, had not seen me compete in bodybuilding yet, and I hadn't competed since 2008, it was kind of like I was done with it. I said, all right, I'm going to really try to push my leg and push myself and come back from this and compete again. So this picture is from one of those contests in 2014. But the reason that that contest was significant, or those 2 contests I did, was that was when I really came upon fasting. It was 2014. I was, doing all this different research and whatnot. I wanted to be in my best shape ever for those particular contests. And we have something called stubborn fat cells. Everybody's got them. It's called an alpha. They have basically a different type of receptor. It's an alpha receptor. So for us guys, that's typically your lower abs, like your right around the belly button, the umbilical area, your love handles, lower back. That is typically the stubborn fat areas. It could be different, right? It's not 100%, but that's 95% of the time. That's where men are going to have their stubborn fat, and women's stubborn fat is going to be in their glutes and thighs. One of the things that makes it stubborn is the alpha receptors have a very poor blood supply. So with fat loss, it cannot happen unless you get blood flow into the fat to transport it out, and then you use it with the working muscles. So if step 1 can't happen because it's a very poor blood supply, you kind of get caught, stuck right in your tracks right out the gate. So if you touch those areas of your body too, I guarantee you they're going to be colder than the rest of your body. That's because of the poor blood supply. So anyhow, I'm doing my research. 2014 is probably about 8 weeks out from the show. And guys, I would literally starve myself to get ready for these contests. I would do everything that I'm teaching you not to do. I would be doing like 1,600 calories a day. I would just torture myself. And I would break that up over 4 meals a day. And I'm a decent sized man, so that's not a lot of food. But that was what I kind of did a lot of damage to my body from dieting improperly throughout the years. And I couldn't get lean unless I did that. So the fasting increases blood flow. Through my research, it's one of the only ways you can increase blood flow to those stubborn fat parts of your body is through fasting. So I read that, and the next day I started fasting. Okay, I went from 4 meals to 2 meals. So it wasn't the fasting that I'm teaching you as far as length. It was just an easy 16-hour fast. So I'd have a lunch and a dinner. And right away, I noticed that my ability to deal with my hunger, because I was really against starving myself, was much more manageable. Energy was much better. Just a lot of cool things right out the gate. So that was 2014. So it's come a long way since that point for me, as far as what I've done with it and studied with it. But tonight I want you to take what you think you know about food and eating and diet, throw it out the window. Because pretty much everything you've been taught is probably wrong. This is what they do in fitness and in medicine. It's pretty much almost the exact opposite of what we've been taught. And take what you can and explore these 6 weeks really try to stick with this as best you can, because at the end of the Ripped Ads, we want you guys to have a really solid principle-based way to eat. And the only way that I found throughout working with thousands of people throughout the years that is going to be there for the long haul is some type of fasting. So a couple definitions. A drug is anything that affects your internal biochemical and hormonal environment. So food is a drug. Okay, food is a drug. You have to understand that concept. Food is to be enjoyed, but it is a drug. Your body fat. So let's say you had 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds that you wanted to lose. So your body fat is mainly storage. It's a backup fuel source. And what we have to keep in mind is we have to give the body a reason to tap into that food source. So each pound of fat that you have, guys, on your body stores about 3,500 calories as far as energy. Each pound of fat stores about 3,500 calories. So if you had 30 pounds you want to lose, that's about 105,000 calories. You have to give your body a reason to tap into. That's a lot of, you could go literally for weeks and months without eating, and people have done that, and you would be perfectly fine. Right? So this idea that we have to constantly eat is a complete falsehood. It's not based in any science or logic when you actually, as you'll see by the end of this presentation. Now, the thing you have to understand, what are we controlling? It's not about cutting out calories. It's about limiting insulin. Insulin, you've probably heard of before. Insulin is one of the master hormones in the body. It's the most anabolic hormone in the body, meaning growth. When insulin is released, it tells the body to grow. Unfortunately for us, most of the time, it's growing fat cells. Right now, long time ago, when I was doing my internship with Rutgers football and working with those guys, Rutgers strength and conditioning, so go back to the early 2000s, and you had a lot of the guys that went on to play in the NFL. They were just coming through there, and these guys could, like when we go to the dining hall, these guys would be eating like, okay, they'd have a bowl of oatmeal, but they would put a stick of butter, a cup of brown sugar, a cup of white sugar, and these guys were ripped. And the reason I'm telling you that is insulin is basically going to tell food to go to the muscle cell or to the fat cell. They're genetically blessed, and a lot of these high level athletes, they have very good insulin sensitivity. Meaning, where is the food that's coming in? Where's it going to go? For the average guy, working out can help us direct it towards muscle. Not eating that often is going to help us direct it towards muscle and less towards fat. But we're predisposed typically when we eat, if everything's status quo, for it to be stored as fat. I'm going to use an analogy I want you guys to picture in your head. So picture down in your basement, you got 2 box freezers. And everything that's within those freezers is your body fat. That represents your body fat. Now, your fridge that's upstairs in your kitchen, in order for us to go down and tap into those box freezers, we have to empty out that fridge upstairs. So a couple things with that fridge. We don't want to open the door that often, right? Because every time that light bulb goes on, I want you to picture that's insulin. And if insulin is constantly released, you could be in a calorie deficit all you want. You're not going to lose weight. It's going to creep right back on you. You might lose the first 2 weeks, and then you're going to stalemate. And that's probably happened to you before. So we want to drain that fridge. So now we have a reason to go down to the freezer to start taking food out of those freezers, which represents our body fat. If you're constantly eating, you're never going to have a reason to go down to those freezers in the basement. You will not, because every time you eat, insulin is released. Remember, insulin, I'm going to hammer this home to you. Insulin tells your body, store, 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 store. So when you eat breakfast in the morning, like most people do, right out the gate, you're pretty much screwing yourself as far as losing weight. Because you wake up in the morning, I don't know if I have this in one of these slides. I got a lot of different fasting presentations. I can't remember which and what sometimes. But when you wake up, let me just see if I have it. So when you wake up, and I'll explain this, when I started learning fasting, I really look at the hormones, studied a lot of hormone stuff, was taught a lot of that stuff by some great teachers. You have a hormone called cortisol, right? We all have cortisol. You might have heard that on infomercials. A lot of times it gets a bad rap. It's a stress hormone. It's an alertness hormone. Cortisol is fine as long as it's not in excess. Now, the hormone that is going to wake us up in the morning, if we were getting a nice night's sleep and you didn't set an alarm clock, the hormone that's going to wake you up is cortisol. It should be peaking right about, it starts rising about 2 hours before you get up, and it then should peak when you get up. And remember, it's an alertness hormone. You wake up, cortisol is. Now, if you go back to, and I'll be teaching you guys a lot about the brain over the next 6 weeks, but if you go back to how the brain evolved, you go back how thousands of years ago, when you weren't waking up in a nice, safe house, you needed cortisol to be elevated because you had to wake up, you had to look at your surroundings. Is everybody safe? Where am I going to find food today? Are there any threats coming at me? Do I have to fight? Right. So you needed that elevated. You're going from a sleep state to a wakeful state. So boom, we need that to be up. Now, the thing is, when you eat breakfast like most people do, insulin's going to start to go up. Insulin and cortisol have an inverse relationship. They oppose each other. So you eat a breakfast, right after you wake up, insulin's going to start going up. Cortisol, the hormone we want to stay elevated, is going to come down within an hour or so. So most people eat a typical breakfast. The biggest complaint we have after that is that they're tired and hungry shortly thereafter. Because you're messing with insulin, you're messing with your hormones. Now, the cool thing about cortisol, if we let that continue to rise, right? Continue to rise, what comes up with it is growth hormone. Growth hormone, you've probably heard of before. It's within our body. It's released when we sleep. But we can also get huge spikes in growth hormone through fasting. Growth hormone is stuff like Sylvester Stallone. He's big into taking, external growth hormone. We can get our own production every day with longer fasting. Growth hormone is also very profound at helping us tap into body fat stores. So just by doing this fasting, again, you're really manipulating the hormones naturally, and it has a compounding effect. The longer you do this, the more results you're going to see, right? And you're going to feel better, your joints are going to feel better and all that stuff. So let's keep going about the fasting. One thing that you're not going to hear many people talk about, especially when you get into like a 20 or one meal a day, or you start getting into your 48-hour fast, which sounds a lot harder than it is, you're going to get something called autophagy. Now, autophagy does not happen in the presence of food. What that, and you don't, the research is still kind of unclear on this, but you're not getting any autophagy until you really get in, they think, until that like 1 meal a day type of program. Sometimes you got to go even a little bit longer. But that's when your body goes through and it starts eating up the damaged parts of cells. It won't do this in the presence of food. So most people are never getting any autophagy within their body. These damaged parts of cells are just accumulating within their body. When you eat a meal, guys, it takes about 6 hours to enter a fasted state once again. So if you think about how most people are eating, they're waking up, they're eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. They go to bed, maybe they ate close to bed. They wake up, eat again. So they're hardly ever in a fasted state. You can either be in a fed state or a fasted state. That's it. Inflammation. So I was just talking to you about insulin. When you become insulin resistant, okay, you're on the road to becoming type 2 diabetic. Most people are insulin resistant. Now, your body builds up a resistance to insulin because you're tapping that button too often. So the insulin that used to be able to clear your blood after a meal, over time, Next time, it might take 1.5 times that amount. So your body's becoming resistant to the effects of insulin. And the reason I'm telling you about insulin resistance, it's really the same thing as inflammation. If you have insulin resistance, you're inflamed. Insulin resistance is the root of every single disease known to mankind: inflammation and insulin resistance. So we're going to dramatically reduce inflammation through fasting. And I've had crazy anecdotal stories of people that I've coached through fasting the past 2 years, like this longer form fasting. It's just as far as pain and injuries and all this type of stuff, really skin conditions, sinus infections. It really is amazing. Now, you have the typical North American diets. So think about any diet you've done before. That's one road. Fasting is a completely different road. I want you to be clear on this. When you cut calories and you play that game and you do that, what happens is, because calories are still your main fuel source, right? With what we're doing, we're training it to be body fat over time as our main fuel source. But as you're cutting calories, your metabolism is going to come down to match what you're putting in. And that's where you get that stall out effect. You cut calories, lose weight, boom, all of a sudden it's not working anymore. I'm going to cut again, boom, your body is going to keep downshifting its metabolic rate to match the food that you're putting in. So you get a slowing down of your metabolism, and your main hunger hormone called ghrelin continues to rise as you cut calories. So metabolism slowing down, hunger's going up. And I think we've probably all experienced this before when we've done diets. When you fast, ghrelin, your main hunger hormone, goes down over time, and your metabolism actually goes up 5 to 14%. So it has it's two different metabolic roads: cutting calories, playing that diet game, or fasting. You will notice that your energy should go up big time with fasting. Now, I didn't mention when I talked about food being a drug. When you first start with this, you might get withdrawal symptoms, just like you would with any drug. That could be a headache, that could be a little shaky. These go away very quickly. Something I have in that the nutrition manual is the juice, which I'll talk about, but you have to be drinking that sodium, the salt that I want in the water, the potassium, and the baking soda. Very important, guys, that you're doing that. I'll go over that more in a little bit, but if you're doing that, it's going to help with any of the withdrawal symptoms, going to help with hunger. It's going to really make sure that you're productive. Like when you get into the 48-hour fast, you're not going to see any drop off in your energy or your performance, within the gym or outside the gym. But one of the biggest benefits from fasting is you're going to have more energy, right? You don't get energy directly from food. Food's got to be broken down and distributed throughout the body. When you actually eat a meal, digestion is one of the most expensive metabolic things within the body. So when you eat, because you need energy, you're actually taking away a lot of energy that could be used by your body, because your body's got to digest it and break it down and all this type of stuff. So some of the things that you'll hear me talk about with mind mapping, which is another passion of mine, is really how the brain forms habits. So I study a lot of that stuff, is because that's really, guys, what it's all about. If you can't form a habit, you're not going to have success with anything that you're trying to do. So this is all with I call it the panda diet, and I call it diet because you're familiar with that term, not because it's actual diet, but it's supposed to be very easy to conceptualize and to form habits around. Like it's black or white, right? Like a panda. You're either fasting or you're feasting. There's no, let me have a little bit of this, dude. No. You eliminate the gray area. It's fasting or feasting. And when you eat, you should eat a nice big meal. We'll go over meal structure at the end. But it shouldn't be this, okay, I'm fasting, let me eat a little bit, like a little diet meal. No, you're going to feast. Your brain will not form a habit around anything that is purely willpower based. So think of any New Year's resolutions you've done, anything in the past where I'm going to really go after it. I'm going to do it this time. And then 2 weeks in, you're burnt out. Now, willpower, so you understand this, is based in the frontal part of your brain. And it's very energy dependent, that part of your brain, like the human part of your brain, we call it. So by the end of the day, if you're using willpower, guess what? Willpower's spent by the end of the day. If you're busy, you got a job, you got kids, you got all these things, it's gone at the end of the day. When you sleep, it can replenish. So we need like little teaspoons of willpower to get started. But if it's purely willpower based, you will not form a habit around it. And when you think of the word willpower, guys, it's usually doing stuff you don't want to do, right? So you got to kind of frame this stuff, and I'll go over next lesson. It's got to bring you some type of pleasure or benefit that's going to make you feel better. Couple myths. Protein. So a lot of people get on, I can't have carbs, it's going to make me fat. And it's based in what I call bodybuilding logic, right? So bodybuilders got a few things right, but the concept was they were trying to limit insulin output. First of all, protein is a terrible energy source. Protein is anabolic. Okay, animal protein is very anabolic at helping us grow. Not necessarily always a good thing, especially the age that we're at now, the ages that we're at in this group. You don't need nearly as much as you've been told. And I'll tell you guys, nowadays, I might have animal meat twice a week. When I was bodybuilding, when I was showing you guys those pictures, I'd be eating 300-400 grams of protein a day. So mainly what you're going to be eating is carbohydrate based. I'm not talking about bagels and donuts and all that. I'm talking about stuff that grew from the ground, right? That's where you really want to focus, because that's what's got what's called the micronutrients. So you have macronutrients as your protein, carbs, fat. Throw that out the window. That makes zero difference, right? Don't get too caught up in that. We want to focus on what nutrients does the food that I'm eating have. So stuff that grew from the earth is loaded with more micronutrients than animal protein. Animal protein, really, guys, is just dead flesh when you think about it. And again, this is coming from a bodybuilding background. I'm not a vegetarian or anything, but I'm just telling you, we have to limit animal protein. Frequency. We've been told that we have to eat frequently to speed up our metabolism. Complete BS. Now you got to think where a lot of these nutrition myths come from. Marketing, and you always got to chase the dollar or see where's the dollar leading to, right? The more often you eat, the more you're going to spend, the more you're going to consume, all this type of stuff. Food companies need you to eat more often. They don't want you fasting. They don't want you to be healthy. Starvation mode. People will tell you, and one of your biggest enemies with fasting is going to be people that think they know better than you. That it's going to tell you how bad this is for you. You're going to go into starvation mode. It's not good for you. They don't have, listen, if somebody hasn't done something, do not take advice from them on that topic. Okay. And you'll get a lot of people that are going to tell you all about this stuff and they've never tried it. So starvation mode is what I explained happens when you do a typical North American diet. Metabolism comes down. Okay. Hunger hormones go up. And now what happens when you go back because you can't stand it anymore because you're so hungry. And this would happen, guys, I consider myself a very disciplined person, but when I was competing, I would break down sometimes too. And man, I got to have that almond butter. And just because you can't control when the hunger's going up, you're starving. Now you go back to eat a normal amount of food, but your metabolism's down here. Guess what happens? All that excess is going to be stored as fat. It's survival. You programmed your body to do that. That's starvation mode. When you fast, the exact opposite. Again, your body's going to tap into reserves first, right? Reserves as far as what's called glycogen. It's what's stored in your muscles and your liver. Okay, it's when carbohydrate combines with water. Once that runs out, then you're going to start converting different proteins within your body, not your muscle. You have a lot of protein in your body besides your muscle. It's going to convert that to energy. Okay, it actually turns protein into glucose, and then it's going to tap into body fat stores. And that's the sequence that we're after. So the longer you do this fasting, you're going to get a nice hit every day of tapping into your body fat stores. I don't even know how I wound up talking about that, but somehow we got onto that. But breakfast too. Breakfast is and I'll give you guys a copy of the Panda book if you guys want it. I'll leave them at the gym for you guys because I write it. It's a very easy read. It's only about 85 pages, but I really kind of break all this down in there so you can have it as a reference. Breakfast, again, marketing dollars. Breakfast is a relatively recent invention within the past 150 years, right? And it was designed for people that either had malnourished kids that could not put on weight, people that had disease. And when you looked at like Europe, where it actually came about, it was when you had the working class that would work out in the fields all day. They were not getting a lunch break or anything like that. So they had to front load their food. They were putting in 12-hour days out in fields and whatnot. And now it became an industry. So breakfast is not the most important meal of the day. When you break your fast, that is, if you look at the actual word, it's breaking your fast. Everybody breaks their fast at some point. But another myth, okay? And with fasting or mind map, it's always, what can you commit to doing right now? Right? So you guys are starting out ripped dads. If you decide that you're also going to add in like 2 other things you're going to start working on right now that you don't want, you're not going to succeed. Just focus on the simple stuff that we're going to have you do. Schedule your workouts, stick with the fasting, right? And then we build upon that. You want to keep it real simple. If you look at like behavioral psychology, if I gave you one thing to work on and it's something you wanted to do, you got about an 80% success rate that you might form a habit around that. If I give you 2 things, it drops to about 20%. So we all think we can do all these things, add all these things in at once. And that's why I have the question of what can you commit to doing right now? If you could only do a 16-hour fast, then start with that. The idea is we want to build upon this each week. So we talked about fat is a food source. Remember that. When you feel, now, you're going to get these hunger signals throughout the day, okay? Those are called food entrainment patterns. So basically throughout the years, when you've trained your body to expect food, it's going to release hunger signals at those times. So when you first start this, you're still going to get hungry at lunchtime. You're going to get hungry at breakfast if you're used to that. That diminishes greatly over time, as I was telling you. Just drink the juice, get about your business, and it'll go away. Even when I've had people do week-long fasts, and when I've done longer fasts myself, if you actually total up the time that you're actually hungry, it's so minuscule. So just don't give in to that feeling when you feel it. Hunger is a hormone. Hunger is actually a feeling. Okay, appetite is something different. I won't go too much into that tonight. But when you feel hunger, the way I want you to reframe that right now is that is what fat loss feels like. You're gonna have a little discomfort. It's not a bad thing, guys. You're not gonna be starving yourself, but it's gonna be a little uncomfortable for you, which is okay, right? That's how you make the body stronger. That's what you're doing in the gym. You're applying stress to the body so it adapts, right? And food is a drug. Remember that. Metabolism is greatly misunderstood. People think you can speed it up and do. Your metabolism can upregulate or downregulate 40%. So on the flip side, we're eating our feast. Like when you get to the 1 meal a day and you eat the way that I teach people to eat, you cannot overeat. And I've tried. And I have a huge appetite. You can't do it. Meaning you're not going to eat yourself when you're putting on. It can't happen. Okay, when you're eating like this. And that's another reason. You just take the calorie equation game and throw it out the window. It is so, people like it because they want to simplify things and they want to be able to measure everything and have this little, like, just cut calories here and burn calories here. And that's what happens. It doesn't happen, guys. It does not happen. And exercise, I'll tell you, exercise is more for your brain. There's certain growth factors and hormones that can only get into your brain through physical movement, right? That was another survival mechanism by the human body. So it makes you feel good, exercise. It's good for your joints, great for your joints, great for putting on muscle. As far as losing weight, it's useless. And you probably think that's crazy that I'm saying that. I tell everybody, I'm honest with people when I tell them, you do not get into this game that you're going to burn calories and lose weight that way. That's not how it works, right? Picture a bike. You got 2 wheels on a bike. You got exercise and you got nutrition and sleep, like behaviors, stuff like that. They both support each other. Exercise will help you, but you ain't going to burn off your fat. through exercise. That is not how weight loss happens. Control insulin and weight loss will happen. What I'm going to teach you guys with the fasting is literally something you can do forever. People have done this throughout the history of the world. It was very, every religion has ever existed has talked about fasting. It's just as of recently that it's become less and less popular. Now you're starting to see it become popular once again, but it's not something that is in the best interest of the powers that be. But it is something you can do forever in some form. And that'll be the idea, is at the end of this 6 weeks, you have a nice fasting plan that you're comfortable with, and I'll help you figure that out, okay? But experiment with what I laid out in the nutrition manual for now. Okay. Oh, let me go over meal structure. Let me just open one more of these things for you guys. Hold on, let me stop the share while I find this. So I want to show you guys. Okay. Let's go over two more things here from another. So let's talk about the juice first. So this is the juice. So you can pick this stuff up at ShopRite or most stores. Your sea salt, okay. Low salt or new salt, which is your potassium, and your baking soda, which is another form of sodium, but it's very good for your kidneys and very good at making the body more alkaline. So if we're too acidic, we're too inflamed, we're like insulin resistant. We want to get the body back to more being alkaline. Okay, we want to get more fruits into to our nutrition, and these things all make the body more alkaline. You do a quarter to a half a teaspoon in 32 to 40 ounces. Try to do that twice a day to start out. That's actually how you hydrate, is sodium, guys. Water follows sodium. If you get diarrhea when you first start doing this, that is completely normal. Just cut back on the dose. Because again, water follows sodium. So you could cut back on the dose if you need to. When you're first getting into the longer fasting, when you first eat, you might have to run to the bathroom. There's a lot of intestinal inflammation that you're going to heal, all right, when you start fasting. But at first, you might eat, oh, I got to run to the bathroom. Don't panic. This is all normal as you go through this process. It'll adjust itself. It will adjust. But that's the juice. The juice is going to hit hunger centers in the brain. So when you feel like I'm fasting and I got to eat, just drink the juice, right? Your body is always seeking out nutrients, not necessarily food. What else about the juice? It's going to help with digestion, right? So hydrochloric acid, one of your main digestive enzymes, the precursor to that is sodium chloride, okay? So sodium, sea salt, but this is a must. Hold on one second, Rob. Let me just get to this and then we'll go over that. Questions. Meal structure. So this is what I want you guys doing, okay? Fruit first. So when you break your fast, eat fruit. I don't care what kind. I don't care how much. I eat a big bowl when I break my fast. Is digested further down in the intestines than other food. So most people eat fruit at the end, right? Like that's one thing eat fruit at the end as a dessert. And it kind of makes sense because it's sweet. What happens then is you're putting the fruit in on top of the other food and it kind of ferments more in your stomach. We don't want food fermenting in our stomach. We want to move it through. So the fruit goes through. It's got tons of micronutrients. And then as soon as it gets into your stomach, guys, or passes through your stomach has stretch receptors. So fruit has a lot of value, right? So as soon as it starts going through, those stretch receptors start being stretched or signaling the brain that you got food coming in and that you can kind of slow down. Because a lot of people had this fear, if I fast, I'm not going to be able to control myself. Start with fruit. Anytime people don't do that, they wind up learning. Eventually they have to do it because I'll question them. Well, you doing fruit first? No, well, put it in. There's a reason we have it there. And all of a sudden it just makes everything else flow much easier. Your main meal, did it come from the ground? Okay. Did it come from the ground? If it came from the ground, it's fair game, right? So I'm a real big fan of potatoes. Any type of potato you like. Potatoes are the most satiating food there is, are potatoes. It'll keep you full longer than any other food. So potatoes, and this is where you would have your animal meat if you want it there. Like I said, just be mindful of it. I'll be teaching you guys more about that. You could eat, there's, based on appetite, there's nights I'll have 2-3 potatoes. So again, I want you to be satisfied when you're done eating. And then as a dessert, like when it's regular during the week, like I'm not talking about social events or cheat meals or anything like that. I'll make like overnight oats. I'll put a video up in the group for you guys. I actually make them in the morning, but it's real simple. Put them right in the fridge. You know, I put stevia, cinnamon, salt in there. I put some frozen blueberries with it. Sometimes I'll put some peanut butter in it, and that's like my dessert during the week. So it's real simple. Okay, but you're going to be stuffed if you eat this type of structure. You're going to be full. And as far as meal timing, I recommend dinner just for social reasons. For most people, that works best as far as eating with their spouse or eating with their family. My kids are real little still. I like eating after they go to bed. I've always eaten late. It's another big myth that you shouldn't eat close to bed. The only reason you shouldn't eat close to bed is if you have to know your body as far as how it digests. Some people don't do well with eating and then laying down, right? So I recommend eat your meal. I always like to do a 10-minute walk. I go right up and down the street. It's very good at helping with digestion. But what I want to explain to you again with that is you have two parts of the nervous system that we're concerned with. Okay, one is called the sympathetic, which is fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's a stress response. The other one is parasympathetic, which is rest, digest, recover, sleep. Digestion and sleep go hand in hand. You have to be in the same part of your nervous system to perform those two things optimally. So eating a big feast closer to bedtime makes perfect sense scientifically. Your metabolism does not shut off when you go to sleep. That is another big myth that you're going to store everything as fat. Again, if you don't want food just sitting there, so maybe you eat, for some of you, it might be an hour before bed. Some of you might need 2 hours. Some of you can do it within a half hour of bed. But I do recommend eating, and this meal can be flexible. If you have something that comes up, you got a lunch date, you can either go there and just drink coffee, water, tea, or you can move your meal around. But just try to be consistent when you actually get into a nice flow. It's going to make it easier for you. Now, as far as you don't need to be perfect, I always recommend, like Sundays to me is on the weekends I loosen up. I usually always 90% of the time I stick with my fasting period, because you'll see over time you're just not going to feel as well if you start eating breakfast on the weekends. You can try it. Your probably energy is not going to feel good, and you'll realize what you've been doing to yourself all these years. But you could have a cheat meals, like work, make this fit for your life. Right? Don't do this like I can't stray. Like Sundays, I always do, my cheat meals. Sunday nights, and I have big brownie Sundays, and I do whatever. I have a bunch of burgers. Like I want this to be something that fits into your life. You go on vacation. You have Thanksgiving coming up right now. We're in November. Enjoy that day. Use your head. Like this is not meant to be a diet that you can't. It's not a diet. It's just a principle. The principle is always going to be there. You always come back home to it. You go on vacation. Like when I go on vacation, I do lunch and dinner. Normally I don't do that, but that's what I like to do on vacation. I go right back to it when I come back. So just keep these principles in mind. All right, so I went over a lot of, let me make a note of something I want to tell you. Now, if you have questions, guys, just unmute yourself and ask the question. I'll do my best to answer it, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, Kyle, for some reason, I'm still not on the group. So do you have the formula for the drink, the ratio?
Yeah, I did say, because I can't resend you a invite once I've invited, but I'm going to look again. So the ratio, 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon, not tablespoon, teaspoon of each of those compounds. So your sea salt, your low salt, which is just a brand. You can get other brands, and your baking soda. And you want to do that in 32 to 40 ounces of water. That makes sense, Rob?
Yeah, too easy.
Okay. What else we got, guys? And any questions you got about the program, any of this stuff, just fire away. I'm here to answer questions and help you guys.
Kyle, it's Pat. Tomorrow, 7:30 in the borough.
Yeah, so good thing.
Okay.
Jotted that down. So every week, guys, I'm going to do on a Tuesday a dad specific workout that I will run. It's going to be stuff that you're not normally doing, particularly in the regular workouts. It'll be appropriate. I'll modify everything. It's a good chance to get to know each other. And when we did this last time, I was actually doing 2 a week, but I think 1 is good. But I'm going to rotate each week. So next week we'll be in Flemington, and I'll post the schedule in the group. And if you want to, you could train at either place. You could come to that. A lot of guys traveled over from both locations last time we were doing this in the spring, and they just look forward to it. So 7:30, we'll warm up. Once the gym clears out, we'll really get into the workout, but we'll start warming up around 7:30. That's not going to be in the app, so don't worry about scheduling that. Just show up. I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll be there.
And just in general, in terms of, number of, workout sessions during a week, right? So first time in 3 years back in the gym, 6 days a week, the right thing to do, or?
If you do, you could, by all means, guys, if you want to be in there that often, go ahead. Three times is a sweet spot.
Okay.
Want to do 4, that's fine too. If you want to go more, you can, but again, think of habits.
Right.
If you're coming out hot and heavy and 2 weeks in, you've already gone 10 times, you're like, man, I'm just so sore, I can't even, we don't want that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I have another question. So if workout tomorrow night is 7:30 p.m. and you're on a 20-hour fast, does that kind of get in the way? Should we just have fruit and then work out?
No, I would push it. I would push it and eat afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely do that. And when you work out, guys, that makes you even more insulin sensitive. So I would work out and then eat after that.
Hey, Kyle, is black coffee okay during the fast?
It is. Yeah, black coffee's fine. Tea, the juice concoction. Okay. You guys will get used to the taste if you're not used to it. Black coffee, pretty quick. And down the road, if what I see with more of the women when I coach them through this stuff is like a deal breaker for them. After a couple of weeks, they want to have a little bit of cream in there. That's fine. Let's start with the black coffee, and then we'll add stuff in as we go along, and just realize that, okay, you know what it's like. As part of this, guys, we really want to get your taste buds back to working the way they should. Right? We have all probably throughout life eaten stuff that was just too artificial, too this, too that, and we've lost like the taste buds of what should actually taste good. Like fruit, I'll tell you, over time, by the end of the 6 weeks, I can almost, if you stick with this kind of program, fruit's going to taste really good for you. Like you're going to love when you have that. It's going to just hit the right amount of sweetness for you. But yeah, black coffee's fine.
So Kyle, you're going to tell me that after this, I'm going to love vegetables again?
You'll be surprised, man. Like I look for, so when I eat the veggies, man, again, look up recipes if you want. I like
that's what I'm doing. I'm trying.
recipes, a lot of seasoning, I put a ton of sea salt on my food. So do it to taste. And then like with my vegetables, guys, what I'll do when I eat is I'll put a bunch of hummus on my plate too. And my broccoli and all that, whatever, dip it right in the hummus. So you make it tasty, make it work for you. Don't just be eating bland food, right? You have a lot more leeway when you fast like this. But yeah, make it tasty. I mean, as guys, it's probably easier for most of us just to put seasoning. Like I love doing the seasoning, buy different seasonings, but load it up on salt. But you will, I'm telling you, you're going to start to really appreciate the taste of nutritious food. It'll take a little bit, but you'll start tasting it. What else we got, guys? Somebody got their hand raised, I think. I don't even know how to check that. Anybody got what we got? Steve, you got a question? And guys, I put my number in the group too. So you all have my number. Feel free to reach out to me. Usually shooting me a text is the quickest way. And then I'll get back to you with whatever I can help you with. But it's going to be a real good 6 weeks. It's going to be a fun time. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to get, really kind of immersed in the community we have at the gym. Everybody's there to support you. Nobody's in the gym is going to member or coach. Nobody will ever make you feel judged, so just, even if this is new for you, get in there and just keep going with it. Okay. Keep going with it.
Yeah, I mean, just for everybody, I don't know if anybody started today or be going first time in the gym. I mean, I walked in today, I was like, I had, everybody's going to their spots. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But, people helped out and said, oh, this is how we do it. And it was welcoming things from that standpoint. So it was, when they first walked in, I'm like, first time in 3 years, I have no idea what the hell's going on here. So let's figure this one out. So
now I'm glad to hear that. You guys, the coaches you'll never even, you don't have to remember anything. You don't have to memorize they'll always they'll coach you. They'll coach you through it.
Yeah, he probably saw I was a deer in the headlights when I first walked in. So
that's all. It's normal, right? You go into a new place and a change of environment is very threatening for the brain. So when I started going to jiu-jitsu, now I'm going 4 years. The first 3, and fitness is pretty much what I do as a living. But the first 3-4 months, I felt out of place there. It won't take you guys that long, but I know that what you're saying as far as the feeling.
Yeah.
It's just a new environment. That's all. But you'll adapt pretty quick. Any other questions, guys?
What about that red book? Dana in Hillsborough was talking about. Is there a book that we have to get or charts? When everyone walks in, it's right on the right-hand side. There's all those like binders.
Oh, it's in that cabinet. Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the binders.
Yeah.
No, so in the binders, you could track your stuff. I don't think we're doing that with you guys as far as your weight. But so within there, you could have your workouts, you could track your weights and all that. But don't worry about that for now.
Okay.
Don't worry about that for now. Okay. And the coaches, as they get to know you, first of all, always communicate if you got an injury or you're just feeling off that day or something, always communicate that stuff. But as they get to know you, they're pretty good at saying, okay, why don't you go up 5 pounds on this, or bump a little weight up here, or hey, take weight off because the form is no good. So good question though. Yeah.
Hey, Kyle, could you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, hey, I screwed this whole thing up. I got to figure it out now. Quick question. So I heard everything, and I have a question. So it sounded like it's more about how often you eat than what you eat, although you do want us to eat, quality foods and whatnot. So I guess my question is, if I ate one meal a day and I ate like 3/4, a half a pizza versus, and I don't want to say calories because I don't want you to kill me for saying it, but like the equal amount of calories in healthy foods, whether it be chicken, whatever, piles of broccoli, and obviously one sounds healthier than the other, but what's the impact there? Like as far as one meal a day, same calories, one's a pizza, the other one is, the foods on your list.
So it's a great question. You are still limiting insulin a lot. So you can definitely drop even when you're eating like cheap foods, because it is, as you said, it's by far the most important thing with the fasting is getting the fasting period down more than focusing on what you're eating. Once you get the fasting, then we can add it in. What you would notice over time, if we did that every day, you're not going to be getting necessarily all the micronutrients to function optimally. So you could see a potential downfall with that. But as far as losing, you have a lot more leeway when you fast like this. And that's what's really cool about it is, especially like in November, December, you got holiday stuff coming up. You could say, hey man, we got a staff party and I know I'm going to go out to the bar tonight, maybe have a couple of drinks, we're going to have a burger and fries. It's okay. Just make that your meal, right? You're still limiting the insulin, which is huge, but it's a great question. Yeah. Great question.
Yeah. So this idea of like sugar and white flour is the devil. You're just saying that it's not good for you because there's very little nutritional value there.
Very little nutritional value. And
We're working the insulin with the amount that we eat, how often we eat, not necessarily the white flour spiking the insulin. You're not too worried about it there. It's more
Yeah.
how often. I got you. I feel that. That's good. That's good stuff. That's good. Yeah. This sounds good because now you, like you said, you can be good for 4 or 5 days, and then you go out, you do, you want to go out, you wait it out. You might wait 22 hours to eat, but then you eat and then shut it down.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, it's
like
such a simple way to live. Like when you actually get into it, it's going to be very liberating as far as food goes, because you just have a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So, and then one other thing, when you go a 20-hour, because I did the last like 3 days, I've been doing the 20-hour. So in the 4 hours, like you eat and then you wait until like 3.5 hours later and then you eat again. I mean, you don't eat for you don't graze for 4 hours, right?
No, good question. So when you're fasting, guys, rarely ever will you eat more than twice, right? So if you're doing the 20/4, which we call the warrior version, eat them. One of those two is probably going to be your main meal. Like you're probably not going to have the desire to eat a big meal and then another big meal. But yeah, it's like eat and then maybe 3.5 hours later, eat again. So I think you'll like once you get to the 1 meal a day, because it's even simpler than that. We don't have to figure out how much should I eat here, so I'm still have an appetite here. But yeah, it's not eating throughout the whole period, guys. Good question. What else we got, guys? And then next week, guys, I'll be posting again. It'll be 8:30 on Monday. That's because I teach a lesson before this, and then I'll probably bump it up a little earlier on Mondays for the remaining 4 weeks. And Matt, do you have a question?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry if I'm yelling. I'm back. And I've been through this before, as you know, some of these other guys. You do start to like veggies, oddly enough. In that, one thing I always had the question on was in the warrior fast, does it matter if you do your 2 meals in that 4-hour period, heavy meal first, lighter meal second, or is it just a personal preference? I mean,
Personal preference.
Try not to graze for 4 hours kind of thing.
Yeah. Personal preference. So, okay. Either you can either do like some people I recommend do that first meal of only fruit, or do your first meal, the bigger one, but start with fruit, because then you might not even feel like eating the second one that much.
Right.
But yeah, personal preference.
Right. Okay.
Good question.
And if I can just say, just because like I said, I've been through it before for some of these other guys, the 20 and 4 isn't as hard as it sounds. And when we get to the fast part, that's not as hard as it sounds either.
Yeah.
You ramp up to it.
Yep. Good point.
You'll surprise yourselves.
Now those last 2 weeks, that's literally 5 meals a week.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Am I right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 5, 6. Yeah. But yeah, we'll be doing a 48. And again, the 48s, guys, sound harder than they are. It's something that I think you'll actually grow to like, and then you can, again, at the end of the ripped ads, okay, maybe you want to do that once a month, every week, every other week, periodically. But it's going to be pretty freeing once you do that too. Now in the Panda program I run, guys, we kind of do that. We start with the 48-hour fast from day one. And the reason I do that is, like, I know you guys weren't entering this to enter the fasting program. So I kind of do it a little differently with you guys. But the reason I start with a 48 with them is I want to eliminate any doubt and fear that they have around fasting. Because a lot of people have all these things they've been told about fasting, that it's not good, or they're going to get shaky and all this stuff. So right out the gate, we build their confidence with the 48. And now all of a sudden, 1 meal a day is pretty simple. Hey, I went 48 hours without eating. Didn't think I can do that, and nothing bad happened to me. So it's going to be cool when we get to that point. And I'll be, last thing I'll tell you guys, I'll be posting, starting tomorrow. I'll tag you guys. You can go in, you'll do a nightly check-in. Like it'll be real quick in the group. Just put what you ate. I'll put it in what I want you to put. You'll have that. And at the week's end, I'll remind you, do your check-in. Whatever gym you're going to, whatever your home base is. Again, you can go to either gym, but you'll do your check-in and we'll track that every week. So we'll do the updated standings every week as far as, okay, who lost the most muscle, or excuse me, who gained the most muscle, who lost the most fat. So we posted those standings every week. This is another thing to, make it fun. Okay. All right, then, guys, you guys have a good night. I'll get these PowerPoints up and the video up by tomorrow, and reach out to me with any questions, okay? Tim, do you have another question?
Great.
No, thank you very much. This is
All right,
great.
guys. Awesome. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks,
See you
Kyle.
tomorrow.
Good luck,
Thanks, guys.
everybody.
Later, guys.